Bloomington's Wheeler Shelter for Women closed its doors today, leaving the city without a low-barrier shelter dedicated solely to women. Our Benta Boutier spoke with the pair of women who were staying at the shelter about what their options are now.
The bunks at the Wheeler Women's Shelter in Bloomington has capacity to shelter 40 women, but are now empty. Flo Hepburn and Kellie Ervin sit in the shelter's common room. They're both leaving this week to stay with family members temporarily. Hepburn stayed at Wheeler since April. She'll live with her sister in Bloomington while she waits on a call for an open apartment. She's on supplemental security income, so what she can afford is limited.
I started applying before I got to Wheeler, to some of these places, but the waiting list are 6 months to up to a year and a half, and that's ridiculous, to be honest.
To her, the shelter's closure is significant because she didn't feel safe sheltering with men.
I just don't trust men, period. I have got to really know them before I can trust them.
Ervin moved to Wheeler in early July after a double hernia surgery that prevented her from working.
I did not realize how many females were homeless till I got here. And I was very surprised at the number. But in our economic days now, I mean, price of rent, price of groceries, price of, everything. It's hard to survive.
She'll stay with family members down south, and the plan's to help her find a place of her own by October. She's waiting on Social Security disability income to be approved.
We're looking at income-based housing, senior, 60 and above housing.
She says finding options has been a struggle. She's grateful for the case management and health care access she received at Wheeler.
The medical team that came here got me a nebulizer, so I can do my own breathing treatments now and take care of that aspect, where before on my health insurance I couldn't get one.
Ervin and Hepburn are both worried about how far some women staying at Wheeler have to travel to relocate. Director of Community Engagement Services at Wheeler, Dana Jones, says they've been focused for the last month on relocating their guests.
And as we've been working with them to try to assure them that the next steps is positive and we can move them on to the next area. And so right now we've been very fortunate with being able to relocate a lot of our guests.
In 2020, the Wheeler Women's Shelter closed for several months because of a lack of money. But the City of Bloomington and United Way provided funds for it to reopen. Wheeler Mission's 2020 tax filing states its total revenue that year was $23 million. The year before, its total revenue was $28 million. The closure now comes as Bloomington Wheeler works on strategic plans, and it didn't have the resources to continue sheltering women. Jones says operations were more expensive during the pandemic.
From social distancing to masking to all the protocols of making sure people were remaining safe in congregate sheltering during that pandemic. So it really stretched us about as far as we could get.
He says from November 2020 to this month, they sheltered nearly 1,400 men, about 4 times the number of women, which is something they took into consideration.
We're going to turn around and spend a lot of effort in creating and deepening our programs for men, by deepening our case management availability, by deepening our resources, our long-term programs, so that we'll see success within those programs.
Forrest Gilmore with Beacon Inc. says its overnight shelter for men and women, Friends Place, is adding more beds for women and is ready to shelter as many as possible.
We now are the only emergency shelter for women in our county, and we take that challenge and need with a lot of seriousness. It's a big responsibility.
Beacon has considered shifting its overnight services completely to women and LGBTQ guests and is monitoring bed need closely.
We're still playing that idea out and really exploring that option. I think demand is going to determine to a big degree what we see and what we need to do as a community.
Neither Hepburn or Ervin know where they would be without the Wheeler Women's Shelter. Both say they want to see more affordable housing and shelter options created. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Benta Boutier.
Wheeler says it has no plans as of now on what to do with the building that's housed the women's shelter.